Right, we are live. So, welcome to all those people that are listening live. Please feel free to put your comments, attach them, and we can answer those if you have any as we go along. For those of you watching on replay, reach out to me or to Piera, and we'll answer your questions. So, today's guest is Piera. Piera, I always say this. I don't introduce my guests because I think I won't always hit the right highlights. So could you just take a moment to introduce yourself? Who are you? Maybe a bit of background and some context of anything you think might be relevant for today's conversation.
Thank you so much, Colin, and hello, everyone. So I'm Piera Mattioli. I am a service designer, so that's my background, where I come from. I've been working as a service designer for almost 9 years, basically consulting and helping organizations to deliver products and experiences and services that are based on what people really need, with the idea and the goal to create a better world. And in the last 5 years, I've been moving from companies, so from consulting to corporates to NGOs, so working in the nonprofit sector in projects of social innovation, so trying to create, working with communities on the ground and trying to create um, programs that really deliver values to the beneficiaries, to the end users. And while doing so, I've also been experimenting with art, with collaborative murals, doing collaborative programs, so using art as a tool to create social change. So creating programs where I basically apply the design thinking methodology, that is the methodology that I use as a service designer in art programs. So collaboration, co-creation, visualizing new futures, and then taking a step towards that future through art.
Brilliant. That's an amazing introduction. So, I the reason I want to have this conversation. So I know obviously you and I spoke previously before this live, and so for me these lives are really around business, but quite loosely based around business because I've come to realize that so much of the world outside of work impacts who we are, how we show up to work, but also how we do things at home or the projects that we're involved in outside of work often can add a lot of value in work, but we're so used to doing things an old way or a certain way that people have said that we need to do things. So then when I came across your profile on LinkedIn and we had this conversation, what was really interesting to me is that this whole artistic side of you, how you bring design into the work side of things, and but also that side that you're doing it in communities with children, helping them to learn and share their stories. So there's many ways that I want to go with this conversation, but I just wanted to set that context of what you do is really important. And I think there's a lot of value for maybe a lot of companies out there that are doing things in a very traditional way. Actually, if you think outside of what we normally do. So I come from the banking or finance side of things, and you're a service designer. So you talked about you went to design school. Is that right? Is that a good way to
Yes,
explain it?
correct.
And
Yes.
what you learned there actually is what you bring into your work and how you do that. Whereas my path into work was very, I want to say traditional. Although I didn't go to university, I kind of went to work and then I just learned from the people around me. And what's super interesting to me is when you look at different areas and you go, oh, okay, actually someone's doing something very good over here, but we don't do it in this sector or this industry. So it's quite selfish that I want to have this conversation because I want to know a bit more about your process, how it works. I know obviously you've had a lot of success with what you've been doing. So I just kind of wanted to dig into that a bit more. So can we just go back and just I guess start at the beginning? Your service design, how did that come about? You studied this in university, and what sort of things do they teach you as a service designer?
So I have a master degree in service design. So I come from world in university. And I've been working in many different countries, in Milan, in Italy, Argentina. I'm half Argentinian, in the Netherlands, and then when COVID arrived, I decided to go freelancing. So it gave me the opportunity to see also how, let's say, how to apply this practice, the service design practice, in different contexts, in different realities, and also for different cultures. I've been working actually a lot with in the banking sector as well.
Okay.
Creating new experiences, new services for financial advisor and investment. What I can tell you is that basically what I've realized after many years of practice as a service designer is that we don't only create new ideas, but our work, it's a lot about organizational transformation. So we are inside this organization that can be companies or NGOs where we are trying to push new ideas forward. But in order to deliver these ideas forward, you need to bring people together. You need to align people. You need to facilitate conversation so that the people can see the same direction, so have the same vision in mind, and then work towards that direction. And then, of course, you need to create the concept, no, that you're working on, that you want to innovate, that you want to bring to the market, or that you want to bring to the beneficiaries. And in that case, you need to design a strategy and make sure that everyone knows what to do in order to implement that idea. So for me, a service designer is kind of someone that is orchestrating a concert. No, you are there. You have the big picture, you have the big overview, and you are trying to put all the people together and make them understand where they need to play a role in order to create something new, create something innovative. And the interesting thing is that no matter if it's corporate or NGO, you see the same challenges. No, people that maybe have difficulties in collaborating, they're working in silos. Maybe they don't have a direction, they don't have a clear vision, they don't know where they are going. So sometimes it's lack of leadership, or maybe a leadership that is not communicating to the team in the right way. Sometimes it's just that you are bringing new ideas to the market or to your beneficiaries, but change is systemic, so you cannot deliver an innovative solution. I'm just giving you an example. If you want to change the metrics that you use to evaluate the sales team, if you want to deliver a solution that it's building a new relationship with the customer, that is a partnership more than a transactional relationship, of course the sales team need to be evaluated for cultivating that type of relationship, no, not for the number of contracts they have sold. So it's interesting because you start from one idea, one challenge, actually, because our goal as our task as designer is to reframe challenges into opportunities. So you start from one challenges and then you start ideating solution, but then in order to, it's easy to have an idea, it's very difficult to implement an idea. So in order to implement ideas, you really have to consider the whole picture and the systemic picture, especially within organization, no? And understand what you need to tackle in order to really implement or bring something to life.
Yeah, there's so much that resonates with me because I I worked in projects for a long time. So the projects were often about implementing a new system, or upgrading an existing system, or putting in a replacement, or just making automations. And often the biggest challenge was people. It was, like you said, the communication, the understanding. I think the resistance to change. So we used to think of it as the project team, the IT teams, and the business team. And I know different structures have different. Different companies have different structures, but I think the biggest challenge was that communication between people and understanding. And there was a lot of effort and energy lost in misunderstandings. And when misunderstandings exist, it can really derail a project or anything like that. So but oftentimes there was there were things that people were trying to say, but the other teams, including myself, I don't say that I know everything, that we weren't really listening to, and we weren't really getting. And it was, I think this whole, so part of this conversation today is, I think this communication and this way of sharing information and having a shared vision is so important in everything. And I know we're talking just about projects and implementing in companies, but it exists in everywhere. So I'm just thinking of a conversation I had with my mum just a few minutes ago. We were talking about dinner, and we just, like, I'd said one thing, she thought another thing, and there was just this miscommunication. So it exists in so much, and I think it's so important to get it done in a better way, because I think the energy it takes to repair or to bring these things together, certainly when they go off track, is very, very difficult. So
Definitely.
I guess for you, so when you talked about the orchestra, I love that you saw the bigger picture, what parts need to play. That's a big job in itself. Is there a way that you approach things first of all? Because again, in our world, everyone wants everything delivered yesterday, and everything's super urgent, etc. But to kind of understand all of that, I guess that takes time, energy, and effort to speak to people. Or do you have a quicker way to get there? What's your approach?
Well, that's the human centered design approach or design thinking methodology. There are two different ways to call it, but it's the same. It's basically starting from the people, no? So you need to start by understanding and empathizing who the people are within the system. That might be the people within the organization and also the client, the end user, the end beneficiary. So it's a lot of interviewing, understanding, and the reality is that organization don't spend resources that can be time or money. Not all the organization. There are organizations that are very human centered, so they do have teams within their organization that have this job basically to do qualitative research and understand what are the needs. But many organizations don't. They don't invest their resources to really understand first. Um, so that's the first step, understanding, and then of course, um, in my case, I use visualization. Visualization, I like to say, it's my superpower. So I use visualization to simplify complexity, no? Because after you do a lot of research, you have a lot of insights and a lot of information that, um, again, going back to communication, it needs to be easy for people to understand what is the complexity, no? So that the complexity can be tackled. If it's too difficult to understand, then no one will understand where you need to start. And that's where storytelling and visualization come into play in this type of work, no? Because you need to create infographic maps, systems that are easy to digest and easy to understand, so that when you gather people together, they're able to say, okay, let's focus on here, no? So then it's a lot after research and understanding and synthesizing. It's about defining where to go or what to tackle, and then co-creating together ideas, no? So collaboration, co-creation, it's the base of everything. And I truly believe that if as a society, as humans, we will learn how to collaborate and communicate and work together without ego, but trying to find ways to work together and live together, it will be a better world. So it's about bringing everyone in. And I've done workshop where at the end of workshop, um, I always ask for feedbacks. And so once, I don't know, I have a post-it that was, what did you on I wish, I like, I wonder. In the I liked, this person wrote the opportunity to be a voice. And for me, this is a very important point, no? Because we also need to include everyone in the conversation, and especially those people that don't have a space to be in that conversation. If I think about projects of social innovation, ideally I would love to do workshop where, I've tried it once, didn't work, but ideally I would love to do workshop where even nature is a stakeholder that you have there, that has a voice in whatever you are discussing, no, on the table, because I believe we should at some point also bring the voice of nature within our conversation so that we can create a better world. But well, I'm very idealistic, as you can see. But yes, research, understanding, synthesizing, visualizing, and then co-creation and collaboration to um, to imagine together, because the only way to do it right and the only way to make people believe in the idea, make people take action and ownership over the idea, is to involve them in the conversation throughout the process. Because again, like we were saying, it's about people, and people have to be part, people have to change. So you have to make it fun, you have to involve them in the entire process.
Yeah. There's I'm gonna dig into your superpower in a second, but I just wanna hang on to that point about the human centric, because I got this from your LinkedIn profile anyway, but everything that you do is human centered, and it's something that just keeps coming back. And I love this part because on this journey of mine, I believe there's better ways of working for companies. I think old ways are no longer working. You know, people are still trying to get people to work in the way that we were 50 years ago, but people want to show up, they want to matter, they want to be heard, they want to bring more of themselves, their energy, and who they are. And I think a big part of going to work is feeling seen and heard. And I believe, I've experienced it myself, that most people don't feel that way. They don't. They're just almost the recipient, where they're told what to do just to execute, etc. And I found in my own career, when I was doing projects, everyone needs to buy into the change. First of all, you need to talk to them, understand, because you can have the most amazing product in the whole world, but people that haven't been considered are going to be very resistant to it, and they're the ones probably going to use it. So almost you need to start with them first. And the time invested to speak to people, often in projects, is we're given a very minimal time frame. Okay, just have a quick conversation, but it's really important to get that right. And that's what I love about your approach, and it keeps coming back to that's where it all starts, right? It's not everything else. People are the first thing. Yeah, that's good.
Definitely. Everything is about people. Even when you want to communicate, when I'm just creating just a presentation, no, to deliver the message so that we can move forward. It's starting from who is my audience? What is it that I want to achieve? What impact I want to make in my audience? What do they care about? And then based on that, then I craft a message. So even in the storytelling, you have to start with your audience in mind to understand who they are and what do they care about.
How do you? So I still want to come back to your superpower, but um, I've come across people that have given presentations, and they said when they turned up, they didn't actually know who they were going to be speaking in front of. It was unclear. Do you do some research before you do any talks or any presentations to find out who your audience is going to be?
Definitely, yes. Like I was saying, you need to start from who they are. I also teach presentation and storytelling at IDOU, that it's a design academy, and that's also a methodology, human-centered methodology, that we teach apply to how you craft presentation and how you craft your story. And it's asking yourself who they are. Of course, what will be the context that you will be delivering your presentation in, and what is it that you want to achieve? Because at the end, we craft presentation to deliver messages, no? So it's important to craft that message and then reflect on how to deliver that message. Again, starting from who they are. If they are the C-level, you know that they are going to have only 15-20 minutes. In 15-20 minutes, you have to deliver the key messages of your project, of your idea, of your presentation. You have to have maximum 4 or 5 slides, and you have to have data to back up your ideas, no? Quantitative data, not only qualitative data, and so on, no? So depending on the type of profiles you will have in front of you and what is the impact you want to achieve, then you need to design your storytelling based on that.
I'm just thinking of how many presentations I've actually been on the recipient end of, and I wish someone had trained them like you had trained them, because really, yeah, the messages that they were sending was really, they really didn't hit. It was quite something. So I think that alone is something that I think a lot of leaders and managers could really benefit from, because we talked about communication at the beginning of this conversation, but communication isn't just emails and talking with your team. It's the bigger messages, when they're done, how they're done, and the detailing is targeted at the right level. And so, yeah. So let's go back to the superpower. So you said visualization. Now, in my head, the word visualization goes in two different directions. So I don't know which one's correct and which one's incorrect, or they might be the same. So visualization is when I close my eyes and think about something, I imagine something. But then visualization can be that you're drawing something out on a page or onto a screen or a whiteboard or whatever. Which one is it for you, and how is it your superpower? How do you see it showing up for you?
Well, I guess both are right.
Okay.
I would say regarding the first one, not everyone, from my experience, not everyone has the capacity to visualize and imagine, as just like designers, for example. No, we are trained to do that. We are trained to imagine. We are trained to visualize. No, that's our day-to-day job. So not everyone, is not that we as human we have within ourselves that capability, but we are losing the capability even to dream and imagine and visualize new futures. No, so my job is to, on one end, visualize complexity in the sense of using graphic elements or using graphics, drawings, illustration, to deliver messages in a simple way, and to use visual thinking, that is basically the power of visuals to communicate and to deliver messages. Because as humans, it's easier to read, especially in this moment where we are over crowded. There is too much information. So using visuals and drawings to simplify information and to help people um, understand, it's super powerful. No, so just by adding even small graphics, some small icons, people can better understand, people can better remember, and definitely it's more powerful. No, on the other hand, I also facilitate a lot of workshop where I create some flows, let's say, where I enable people to imagine and to visualize and to dream. No, because if we talk about my artistic side and my artistic work, whatever. I paint murals, I paint collaborative murals, but I don't paint my ideas. I paint the ideas of people. No, so I guide people through these flows, this workshop, where through different activities and exercises, I try to basically make them feel more comfortable with creativity, because also that's a big issue, no? That we are not used to train our creativity. We think sometimes it's stupid. I've always received the comment of, "Ah, Piera, what do you do? Drawings?" But not in a nice way, like in a way
It's
that
not a
is,
compliment.
"Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's stupid. No, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a doctor. I do drawings. But we should, I think we live in a society that is not really giving the right value to creativity, to problem solving, to visualization, to imagination. We should exercise those muscles. No, so whenever I'm with people and I'm trying to trigger them to imagine, sometimes depending on who I have in front, no, and it might be more difficult or less difficult. I've had groups where it was very difficult at the end to make them draw, take a pencil and draw, even if I've done a lot of exercises to help them, lose control, feel more comfortable. And there are groups of people that instead they are used to it, and so they can easily go into that mode. No, so in that case, what I do is I enable people to visualize. So because what I want as a collaborative artist is to bring the idea of all the people in the room together, and my role then is to basically use all those ideas, all those drawing, all those stories to create one shared story. So multiple levels visualization, I think it's the basis for me, is the basis of my life, of everything I do.
So again, you've said so many things that I want to sort of investigate. You said about that you were taught creativity. So bear with me because this is my thought process. So I've come across two people that I've had conversations with over the last few years, both females. So I don't know if that's part of it, but when I was working with them, the thing they were doing two different things. One, I'll explain it. The first one, we were in this course together, and as part of the course, we had to do daily stories. It had to be 1 minute, at least 1 to 3 minutes of a video, and you had to tell a story or tell you what you're going on with your project, and you had to post it on social media. And she had a way of storytelling that was amazing. So we used to have a program in the UK called Jackanory, and it was like a story. Someone would read a famous story, and the kids would listen to it, and it was very engaging. And she reminded me very much of that. And I just, every time her video would come up, there was loads of different videos from other people. Every time I saw hers, I was clicking on it and I was mesmerized. And I said to her, "You're amazing. You're so creative." The way that she expressed herself. And she was quite taken back. And she's like, "No, no, no, I'm not creative." And I'm like, "Yes, you are." It was really, really powerful. But she'd been told by her parents that creativity was not a good thing. And so she became a vet. And then on the other side, there was another lady I worked with, and she was doing a newsletter for the company I worked at. And she was a bit similar to you. She was putting in sort of graphics, even if it was just pictures of people or something. And it was easier to digest the information that was being shared in the newsletter. I said the same thing to her. I said, "This is really something that you're good at." And she was so shocked, and she said, "No, no, 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 I'm not creative." And I'm like, "You clearly are. Like, this is something." And she said, "No, no." And she said that when she was younger, I think it was maybe her mother said, "Oh, no, you need to go into accountancy. And there's no place for creativity in business." And it stood out for me. I was like, whoa, this is, people have been told, and I'm sure it exists so much, that we are creative as youngsters. And now I've got two kids, I can see that they're creative and their imagination is there, but we almost lose it, or we're told not to use it. So it's interesting for me that you, in the training that you did, it's actually required. And so it was a lot of words. I'm sorry, that's the way I work. But so how much do you think this is a skill that you already had, and how much is it something that you've been trained with? Is there a way that you can see that, put that into percentage terms in any way, or is it just, yeah?
I think I've always, since I'm little, I've always drawn. I was always drawing. I was always doing this kind of art projects at school, and I really liked it. And then I stopped, actually. So I started drawing again in 2017 because I was working in Buenos Aires and I wanted to do graphic facilitation. That is basically that you facilitate a workshop and you are there and you draw everything that people are saying. No, so I wanted to do that because I love facilitating workshop and I wanted to use drawings to facilitate workshops and conversation. And so I started drawing again, and I was with two colleagues, and we were giving each other a challenge every week. So 1 week was about emotions, 1 week was about words, 1 week was about animals, and every week we were drawing things. And from there, I started painting murals. So I don't know, it just grew up, but exponentially, in the sense that it's a practice, like you have to draw I draw every day. I practice every day. I consume also content to see what's the different ways to communicate, or also, yes, Instagram, Behance, online, even for workshops. Like I use a lot Miro. Miro, it's a tool to facilitate workshop online, and I love drawing. canvases on Miro. Like when I design a workshop, it's a full visual experience, my workshop. And I like it to be that way because people are it's different. They are when they see a board that it's full of drawings, color, etc., they are much more engaged than if you just put a white canvas, no?
Yeah.
So to answer to your question, it was something I've always had inside and I've always enjoyed, but that I lost connection with during school and even in university, because we learn design, but we learn how to go into computers and how to use the programs. Not We don't learn how to sketch. At least that was my university, no? We do maybe some technical drawings on how to do technical drawings of objects, but that's all, no? So it's a practice that we have to cultivate, and it can be drawing, it can be words. I'm not very good at words as much as I'm good with visuals, no? I know that's not my power, but there are people who are amazing with words, no? And it might be words, it might be drawings. I think people should find their own way of expressing. And I see it also a lot in the course I teach, Impactful Presentation, where there are a lot of mental models around how we need to be when we deliver a presentation, especially in the work environment. No, we need to be very formal and very serious all the time. Why? We are human. We connect as human. Even if we are in our working environment, we can use our voices, our ways of expressing to communicate our message. And that should be actually a point people should leverage on, no? Um, so it's a practice. It's having the curiosity to find your own voice, and then giving you the goal of practicing every day, and having in mind, for example, drawing. It's not about, there is no, I always like to say there is no good or bad drawing. I like all the drawings. I like all the visuals. It's how you communicate. You can be very bad at drawing in your mind, but I can see your sketch and understand what you are trying to communicate. Then, for me, you're a great communicator. Then, um, yes, that's my answer. But again, it's we live in a society that doesn't push us to experiment with our creativity. I'm a freelancer because I want to live this journey and I want to experiment with my creativity and understand how to use it for different purposes, no? But I need that.
Yeah. There's again, so I think when you said, just how we can communicate through, what we draw, I think that's so powerful. So again, one of the things that attracted me to your profile was just this ability to draw. And I'm one of these people, if I see an A4 page of words and sentences, I switch off, especially if it's legal documents. It is honestly, it's the, I feel like tearing my skin off. It's just so, it's very hard for me and I have to come back to it many times. But this idea of being able to draw and to communicate in that way, and you said it earlier, when sometimes you go into a room and there are people that won't draw. Something came up in my mind that maybe those people are embarrassed about what they're going to draw, because the last time they drew anything was probably when they were 10 years old or something. So, a picture of a horse is going to look very strange. So that's where my mind went for the first thing that you're going to draw. So maybe that they're embarrassed, but like what you said was so beautiful. You can see, it doesn't matter what it looks like, you can see what they're trying to portray. And I think if we can get over the embarrassment part, then bring that creativity in, I think that's so powerful, right? And again, it comes back to something that you said, when people are presented with pictures and, little icons or anything like that, for me, my brain just lights up and I'm like, oh yeah, it'd be interesting. What's over here? And that would be a lot easier for me to consume it. And like you said, it's probably not for everybody. Maybe the lawyers out there like to read textbooks and that's something for them. But definitely for me, that visual side of seeing things would allow me to see and understand a lot quicker. So I think that's an amazing thing. But to my point, really, do you think most people are embarrassed when they start drawing? Is that the barrier for most people?
Yeah, and I guess it's lack of practice, in the sense that maybe they haven't drawn for many years, but also it's connected to the fear of failure. No, what if you
Oh,
draw
okay.
something that it's, I don't know, it's not good. No, there is that fear of failure in organizations. So from a drawing, you can scale it up to many other levels. No, and in innovation, we see it a lot, because when you create a new idea and you want to deliver the new idea, you first need to test and prototype. And when you test, you build prototype to test your idea. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's rough. You
Mm,
want just to show people something so that you can gather feedback. Um, and failure, it's a big part of it. No, like, you can fail, and there is a big percentage of failing, but it's better to fail sooner rather than implement something in the market that then won't work. No, and
mm,
so that's also a big shift that organizations are doing, talking about collaboration and everything else. Apart from that, there is also failure, and we live in a context and in organization where maybe failure is not very well seen. No, you always have to perform, you always have to give your best. um, and so that might also be related to the fear of drawing something that is not nice, or that maybe won't be as effective as someone else. No.
yeah. There's again, I think there's so much wisdom in what you're saying because again, you said it earlier. Just in companies, we think that we have to be professional, and there's no place for things like drawing. But drawing is human, right? And I think we create these almost like invisible barriers. No one's ever said to me, "Don't draw," but no one's actually saying that. But you don't tend to draw stuff, and this point about perfectionism and failing, and all the companies that I've worked at, the word failure is just like, whoa, this is like a huge thing. And I've come to change my mindset on the word failure. I prefer experimenting, especially in my own life. So if I say I'm going to do something, now I'm going to experiment with, and I try and do this just for my own benefit, really, because it takes the seriousness out of it, and whatever the outcome, it's positive. So if it's an experiment and it works, fantastic. If it's an experiment and it isn't the results that I was maybe expecting, that's also brilliant, because then I can either change it, or I say, okay, I've given it a month or whatever. It can be anything, and you go, oh, okay, it's not pass fail. And I think that's in school, exams are pass fail, but your understanding might be something. It's just there's this all or nothing way of thinking, and I like changing that way, because I think a lot more people in companies would, if I say take risks, and I have to be careful with the word risks because it sounds like I'm going to invest millions and millions of pounds, but it's not even that. They're just going to take a risk in trying something 10% different than they normally do. And I think if people start to bring that experimentation, and without this fear that they're going to be judged negatively, probably by themselves partly, but also from their peers and their managers, and that they're not going to be impacted in their salary or their bonuses or anything like that. If they could experiment, they had that freedom, I think there would be a lot more innovation in the way that we work, the way that we show up, and what we actually do. And that's my belief. But for some reason, we still work in this environment. I know there are companies that allow this, but a majority of companies don't. It's pass fail still. So is that your experience in the companies maybe you've worked at?
Yes, it's a transformation. It's That's why I always say, like, apart from designing new things, my job is to guide organizational transformation, because it's you really when teams start working in a different way and you propose a different methodology, no, that is okay, an idea, you create a prototype can be like a mock-up of a website, no, and you go to real users to show that mock-up, to test your idea, no, it's like getting them out of their comfort zone totally, no, but then they see the value of that, because they hear the feedback of the people, they understand, and so it's a process of transformation. That's why you need to involve them since the beginning. So yes, I see a lot of that, but again, depends on the level of maturity of the organization. For example, I see a lot of that in Italy. I haven't been working in Italy for many years because I was working outside, abroad, and then as a freelancer, I was working mainly with the Netherlands, US. But lately, I'm having some projects with Italian companies, and it's interesting because we are very formal in Italy, and we're very traditional. And I remember I gave a workshop last year, and I was like with my canvases. It was an in-person workshop, so I was there. I was with my canvases all drawn and asking people to put post-it. And someone came to me and was like, interesting, this Google methodology. And so I realized that maybe it was too much for them, no? And even the setup of making them walk in the room and interact with these canvases, with these drawings, and um, was too much since the beginning. It was my first encounter with them, and I was already proposing an approach that was very experimental and very different to what they were used to. They were used to just sit in front of each other and talk, basically, and present in a very formal way. So it's also about, again, human centered, understanding who you have in your room, who are the people you're working with, what is the level of maturity, what are their barriers, and what do they struggle with, no? So also, how much can you experiment? Maybe it's better to start smaller and then go into full creativity and experimentation. But then if you what I've learned is that when I approach someone that is very traditional with that approach, then I don't achieve the outcome that I want to achieve. No, so it's also balancing and understanding, and also behaving and talking the same language sometimes. No, so that you can guide them into this transformation, because there are a lot of barriers.
Yeah, it's that whole part about the sort of how different cultures work is so super important. I was lucky to sort of do some travel for in one of the banking jobs that I did, and again, it was the cultural difference was a big thing that you needed to really understand, because so we were working in London, and sometimes you can think that London is the center of the world, that we make all these decisions. But the reality is, when you're talking to someone in another country, you need to adjust yourself. It's not about them adjusting to you. And this is something I learned quite early on, because I think ego sets in quite a lot. You mentioned ego before, and I think you go, oh well, no, we're the, I want to say superpower, but that's over exaggeration. But sometimes we think, oh, we're the decision makers, and what we say goes. But I think, again, it's about people, about understanding people. What is the best way to get your message across? Because at the end of it, it's that you want this to work, and in order to get it to work, whatever it is, if it's a new system, a change, or anything like that, it's understanding the people that you're putting that in for, and speaking to those, and understanding, okay, and your example of, if this is something that they've never seen before, and you give them 100% of who you are in this creative world, and they're very traditional, that's almost going to be like a no. But if you just give them 5% or 10%, like a window in without scaring people, and then you can add another 5%, another 5%, and then it goes that way. And yes, it might feel slower and longer, but the reality is you'll get there in the end, and you'll get it in a way where it's been, like you say, a collaboration. You haven't overwhelmed them. They feel that they can ask questions. There's maybe some curiosity in it, rather than me dictating what you should do. And I think a lot of business, we don't do that. We come in and we say, yeah, this is the way that you're going to do it, and we discount people's feelings and thoughts, and that people seem to celebrate, okay, yeah, we're decision makers, and no, it's not. It's about working together, right?
Totally. And
Yeah.
learning how
Yeah.
to, being adaptable, being flexible, being open to understand and to listen. And leadership, of course, leadership plays a big role there.
Yeah. What do you see as part of leadership? What's that for you? Because I've had many conversations about leadership on these lives. There's a lot of people that would help leaders, definitely like independent coaches. And the general message I get is that we aren't all born leaders. We can learn, but oftentimes we've been promoted into positions with a status. That doesn't mean that we're right for that job. We were probably right for the job previously. But when you become a leader and you are looking after people, it's not about telling people, it's about acknowledging people and almost being behind people rather than in front of them. That's certainly my opinion, but I don't know, what's your experience?
Yes, I agree with everything you shared. Um, I will add, if we talk about creativity, another course I teach is how to be a leader for creativity, leading for creativity at
Oh,
IDOU. And we talk a lot about, of course, you need to be able to also create a safe space, no? If we talk about creativity, so that people can experiment and have the freedom, no, to experiment. And then being able again to communicate, no, to have that vision, to know where you are going, and to be able to communicate that direction to your team, so that you know what's the end goal, you know where your team, where you want to arrive, and where you want your team to arrive. But then it's like you leave space and for creativity in the journey, no? So a clear outcome, but then whatever happens in that journey, it's up to the team to, of course, guided by the leader, to decide how to reach that destination. So being very outspoken and clear on what is the point, the final destination, and then being a coach, no? So guiding your team without the journey, within the journey, on how to reach that destination. So the power of question, no? Even in design, we talk about the power of question, because when we have a challenge, then we reframe the challenge into an opportunity. So the how might we framework, I don't know, have you ever heard about the how
I
might
know.
we framework? So it's a framework that it's super powerful. It's used in the design world, that talks about the outcome. The In the how might we, you insert the outcome, you insert the people that are included in this challenge, so that what is the impact you want to achieve. um, and so in even in the design space, framing question, it's an art, because it's the starting point to ideating, to creating new opportunities, no? So that's the process, from problem to reframing a question, to then opening up to opportunities. And as a leader, you should be able to also make the right question, no? That are open-ended question, depending on where your team is at, no? If your team needs more strategic guidance, then you might have more close-ended question than open-ended question, and so on, no? So being able to empathize, being able to understand where they're at, so that you can guide them and show them how to continue in this path, but leaving space for creativity, so that psychological safety of being able to do your best by experimenting, by creating, also it's super important.
Yeah, I love that idea about is there's art in asking the right questions and reframing it, because so something I heard years ago, and I constantly use this. There's a lot of I and you used in business, especially internally. So I'm the manager, you will do what I want, and that's not always what people say, but it is the kind of interpretation. And then one of the companies I work for, they were going through a transformation, and someone was explaining to me the power of the language. What the change of one word can be very powerful. So he said, rather than use I and you, use we, and just say, how are we going to get there, not how are you going to get there. And I experimented with it, and I was like, okay, I understood it, but when you actually use it for yourself and you see people's reactions, like, oh, this is massive. It's because people buy in and they feel that they're part of a team. They feel that okay, we're going to do this as a team together and my ideas are valid. I think what's quite sad about that, even leaders that know how to say it, they then follow up with, they discount the people's ideas. And I think that's, you've done all this great work and then you've ended it badly by saying, yeah, your idea's not very good. But it's I've never forgotten that, the power of just changing that word and saying we. And for anyone who's listening or on the replay, if you're leading people, and notice how you speak and how you phrase something, and if you're saying I or you, change it with we. And it really, don't overdo it, but it's experiment. It's very powerful, certainly in my experience.
Totally.
Yeah. So I want to switch gears. So I think there's so much I want to talk to you about anyway. Before we actually switch gears, Miro, I know you talked to me about it before we had this conversation. Miro for me was very much about almost like process modeling, but how do you use it? Is it something you can just draw on? Do you have special equipment to draw on something on a canvas? How does it work?
I mean, I have my Wacom, that is basically a digital tablet to draw, connected to the
Okay.
computer. So you have the tool, the pencil tool in Miro, so you can actually draw in Miro.
Okay.
But it's not only about drawing, it's really about structuring a visual flow in Miro, no? So I like to build these flows that enable people to follow me when I'm doing a workshop, and to understand, how some activities are connected to other activities. And making it engaging through drawings, through visuals, through images, through colors, through that. Another thing I'm a truly believer is that we need to have fun while working. Why do we need to be so serious? And so when you enter a board that is full of drawings and colors, people have fun. They're much more engaged than something simple and boring, no?
Yeah. So I think this is really, so my switching gears, I think, is a really good point to talk about murals. So you said that you work for NGOs, but you also work in communities doing murals. So murals in my head, so please correct me if it's wrong, it's more street art, something on a wall or the side of a building that's been given permission to do. It's not graffiti necessarily. So is that the right framing of a mural, or is it something different?
That's correct.
Right.
Then for me, mural, the way I approach it, it's a story basically, no? It's a visual and it's a story that you are placing in a public environment, on a street, on a building, and that it's communicating a story to the people that will leave that place and go through that place. So the difference
And
between graffiti it's more of a tag, mural it's an illustration, an image, a composition, let's say.
so um, so you started murals. What was the trigger for you doing murals? Was it just a community project, or was it something? What was the trigger?
So I started painting murals because I was just backpacking in South America, and I was volunteering, and I started painting murals. But then in this journey of experimentation, I started doing collaborative murals, so bringing people together and painting together. And it's not only about painting together, because that can be easy, but it's about imagining together. So I must say that as a designer, sometimes it's a bit frustrating because I work a lot in the strategic level, no? So it's about ideating concept, ideating strategy, guiding a new direction, whatever. So at the end, the most tangible I can get, it's maybe a mural or an infographic, or a presentation, or a mock-up if you're doing a website. While through art, I can really get tangible and start doing something. So I like the tangibility of art to start implementing something. So if we think about the process of transformation, no, the first step it's about visualizing. in order to then take a step towards that change. So that's how I like to see murals. For me, it's the opportunity whenever I design an art program, a community mural, it's the opportunity to bring people together to talk about a specific topic. So I will give you an example. Last year, I did a project with 14 Palestinians and immigrants that are under 18 years old living here in my city. And together, we gathered together to, the goal was to create a vision of the future, a vision of hope. So we gathered together and I created a workshop of 2-3 hours where we talk about future, about fears, about dreams, about courage, and then we sketch how we imagine, how we desire our future to be. No, so we had the Palestinians sketching something and the immigrants sketching something else, and then basically I created a composition out of all the sketches that I shared with them. And then we designed these murals all together. No, so we created a 80 square meter mural where we basically told my community on how we dream to live, how we dream the future to be. No, a future of hope where there are no borders. Where there is happiness, where, for example, the immigrants were saying their dream was to be able to study so that they could have money, send money at home, and then yes, have a life, no, build a life, simple things that for us are very normal, no. Or for example, there was a guy from Ukraine that said he was dreaming to reconnect with his mother and with his sister because he hadn't seen her for 2 years. So I drew them together. No, I drew this guy from Ukraine touching the hand of the mother, and he came and I made him paint that piece of the mural. No, so I told him this is the first step. We are now visualizing it. We're now putting it into the walls. Trust me that this will happen. No? And it's the first step towards the change, towards achieving those dreams. No. So yes, for me, art is a tool. It's my way of expression. I am an artist. I love painting murals, but I love to do community murals, collaborative art, where art is the medium, is the tool that we use to trigger imagination first, no? So that we exercise people's skills to imagine something different, to imagine new futures. And then by painting it together, we are already doing the first step towards that change, towards that future, because people are coming together. They are learning to get to know each other, community is created. They learn how to collaborate and how to work together, but because they are painting together, of course, led by me, that I'm there orchestrating everyone. But they learn to collaborate together and to paint by painting together a mural. No, so at the end, it's about them, that then they come the next day, they might be coming every day to paint, or maybe they come the next day with the parents and they're like, oh look, I did this. No, and it's not about me, it's about what we are creating together. So, and at the end, it's a message for the community. So it's there, and you by creating this artwork, it's a message that you want to deliver to the community where you are staying. No, so that's
Yeah,
how I approach the art making through murals.
that's uh, that's amazing. I was actually feeling quite emotional as you were saying that, because certainly from the I'm from England, and there's sometimes a negative association with immigrants and migrants, etc. And the, often the news kind of makes newsworthy content. So you see one side, it's all catastrophize, how people are, and you very rarely get to speak to the people themselves. They very rarely have a voice. It's you know, and to have someone like you that can take what they're thinking and imagine it and share that you said about the Ukrainian gentleman and holding his mum's hand, like that's what he wants now. Who can't relate to that? that's huge. And I think for people that aren't involved in that project, that must be powerful enough just to go, oh, okay. Yeah. And I think we often forget there's, we see these stories on the news, etc., and everyone's human, right? And we forget that. We think, oh, it's just a statistic until it happens to you. But being able to share that story or someone's story, and that they can see that they have a voice, which isn't a voice, it's art, but other people can see who they are, and that you have a space where you can bring people together. That's hugely powerful in my mind. That must be a very rewarding thing to be able to do.
It's I love the energy that it creates, because you are there 1 week, maybe 3 days, and you see community building, really. Like, you see 30 people there, plus all the people that stops to see what's going on, because they are just seeing 30 people painting like crazy, 80 square meter, no? And so you start bridging also culture, you start bridging people. In one of the last project I did here a few months ago, we had people on wheelchair. I painted with people with cognitive disabilities. So all these kind of realities that art enables to us to connect, no, to communicate, also because you are doing something practical together, no, there is no need to be there face to face just talking, you are doing something together, you are painting together. So you're painting with people on wheelchair, you're painting with people with disabilities, you're painting with immigrants, with many different realities you can involve. Is the same approach, and art and this collaborative activity really bridges people and bridges cultures and bridges whatever disability there might be, or prejudice there might be. No, I've seen people getting together and starting to be united because they're painting together. um, and it's just powerful how community can be built. And if we relate all of this to what we were saying before, at the end it's all about people. And
Yeah.
we need to transform people to transform organization, to transform society, to transform the world. So it's just finding, for me, it's just finding new ways to engage with communities, with people, with groups of people, and finding new ways to make them imagine together, work together, collaborate together. And there is nothing more beautiful than art, because at the end, when you finish, you're like, wow, we made this. And it's the outcome, of course, it's beautiful. Well, I like it because I am the art director there, so of course I like it. But it's very rewarding, and not only for me, for everyone that comes there and that says, I did this. No, it's us, we did this. And
Yeah.
that's, again, what we were saying, it's about we, the power of we, the power of coming together and doing things together.
Yeah. I was thinking when you said about the barrier. So I think sometimes why people, have a negative association about other people, it doesn't matter what the situation is. I think it's fear. We fear things that we don't understand. And, if someone's talking in another language and we don't understand what they're saying, some languages can sound quite, if I say violent, the way that things are pronounced, they're quite aggressive. Let's say not violent, aggressive, but actually, it's just in that country. That's just hello, how are you? And I think if the way that you expressed it, we're working together on something, and it bridges all of those barriers, and it's just okay. And if you don't speak the same language, art just bridges that, right? We all know what a ship looks like. We all know what a person looks like, and you can draw that. I don't know why those are the two things that my brain said that you would draw, but honestly, that sounds amazing. Do you have people that walk by that want to also get involved? Is that something? So you obviously bring these
Yeah,
people together. Do people want to then be involved in that?
all the time.
Yeah.
I invite everyone. uh, well, there is a lot of strategy and communication also there. No, if you work with a community, you need to engage a community, and it might
Mm.
seem easy, but it's not. So you have to do a lot of work on communicating what you're gonna do, and having people involved. And then when you start, then okay, the magic creates by itself, no? Because whatever happens is magic for me. And then there you do have a lot of people that come and they're like, "Can I paint?" And you're like, "Of course." I give brushes to everyone. And the nice thing of painting also is, the first thing I say to someone who comes is, okay, there is no fear of failing, okay, because it's paint. So even if you drop paint or you go outside of the border, it's okay because it's paint. We can paint over it. So don't worry, go for it. So of course you have children that paint everywhere, and there are people who are more precise, people who are less precise, but it's okay because it's paint and you can fail because you can always adjust. So it's also, for me, it's a lot of what I do in the organization, but with people, no, outside of the organization through murals. Are you? Do you have fear of failure? Don't worry. Here you can experiment. And a lot of people come to me and they say, "I'm not creative. I don't know how to paint." And I say, "Everyone knows how to paint. It's very easy. You just have to feel color. That's all." And so connecting with your creativity. And I've worked with people who have then started to do their own murals, no, and that's also very rewarding for me because I've been when I see that someone is good, and then I'm like, okay, why don't you do your piece, no? Why don't you do a piece in this mural that is your piece? And I guide them, no? What's the process? Sketch first some idea, let's see how this connects with the rest, and then i'll help you I'll help you put the image in the wall, and I'll help you understand how to paint it, basically, but so again, empowering, being a leader there, that it's empowering others to create. And then after that, I've seen many people that have worked with me, that have painted with me, that now they're painting their own murals. And for me, it's like amazing. No, it's one of the mission that I also have is to enable people to reconnect with their creativity. So it's rewarding to see that.
Wow, that's yeah, I can imagine that really is. But I mean, it takes effort and time. Like you said, it's not, you don't just start painting a mural. It's about bringing people together. Um, yeah, yeah, it's such an amazing thing. It's not something that I've ever been involved in, and yeah, I want to say thank you for the work that you're doing for people. And I think really, so I'm conscious of the time, and again, I think there's so much interesting stuff about you that you could share, and maybe we do a round two, because I'd like to explore your sort of travels and stuff like that. But yeah, just to say thank you for, we often live in a world where we're quite selfish, me included. We think about ourselves, and it seems through this conversation that you're very much a giver. You want to help people. You recognize, you want people to bring more of themselves, their creativity, and all of that's done through art. And I think that's really the purpose of this conversation, because again, most of the conversations are around business, but art can be in business, right? And the benefits from it are, I want to say, limitless. I don't know if that's exactly accurate, but how you're doing what you do spans across business, communities, people, but with people at the heart of everything that you do. So I think it's amazing to come across people like you. I think we should celebrate maybe more people like you. I think, yeah, you're very inspiring, and I think, yeah, congratulations. And I hope people do appreciate you, and yeah, I hope this brings more awareness to the work that you're doing. And that, yeah, you can take that and maybe even expand it even further. So yeah, thank you very much. Absolutely, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm very inspired by you and everything that you're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for holding
Um,
this space and your good energy also.
Thank you. So, just as a final, if people want to get in contact with you, so obviously you and I are doing this via LinkedIn, but is that the best place to find you? Obviously, you seem very busy. You're doing academies, you're doing freelancing. You're on LinkedIn as well. What's the best place for people to find you if they want to?
I guess LinkedIn works for me. I use LinkedIn. I think this was the first question you asked me, and I use LinkedIn to connect with people. I love connecting with people. I love having conversation. I love taking virtual coffees. So I would say LinkedIn is the best place to connect for me. If you want to see my work, my artistic work, I think on LinkedIn you can see my website. There are some links to my Behance, to my Instagram, where unfortunately in this world, if you want to be an artist, you have to be on Instagram, in social media, and communicate your work. So I'm there also to showcase the process of everything I do. But yes, I would say LinkedIn is the best channel to reach out.
Yeah, the starting point, and then they can all filter into all these places. Oh, fantastic! So this will go out, and I'll obviously link you on the post anyway. But again, super inspiring, real pleasure for me. Thank you for making the time. Yeah, and definitely a round two for me is what I'd like to do. So yeah, hopefully we can find the time in the future.
Thank you so much, Colin. It was a pleasure.
Okay, take care, Piera. Bye.